Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Marian Gellatly, and I am always thrilled to be here with you for Fashion Flair Fridays every Friday at 12 noon, well, almost every Friday at 12 noon Pacific time here in the Empowered Style for Successful Women Entrepreneurs at 50 and better. So, today, what I want to talk about is I know all the things that women complain about. And even though I really like to encourage my clients to stay positive and to focus on the things that they love, I can tell you I understand there are parts of ourselves that, aren't our favorites. So I love to always find little inspirational paragraphs in books that I have around. And so I found this today in a book called Growing More Beautiful by Jennifer Robin. And she says, as our bodies mature, shape and fit becomes even more important. Just when women need to see themselves clearly, they often turn away from the mirror, afraid to look closely for fear of seeing something they won't like. Leaning to see what is flattering on you at midlife will help you step into your hard earned maturity or show off your newfound immaturity. So I love that, Jennifer, and I hope that what you don't do is I hope you don't turn away from the mirror, because I think it's really important that we assess what we love, assess what we're not thrilled about, assess what we may consider figure challenges, and then know what to do about them. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to break this up into a series of two, possibly three, of Fashion Flair Fridays. And today what I want to do is to focus kind of on the upper part of us, I should say from right here, from our neckline down through our bust. So we're going to talk about our necklines and our necks. We're going to talk about our shoulders, our upper arms, and our bust lines. And I think that's enough for today. And then next week, I'm going to come back and we'll talk about waistline on down. How's that? So if you are here with me today, make sure you say hello. I see Betty. Hi there. Good to see you back. And let's get started. So let's start with necklines or necks. First of all, what kind of a neck do you have? Do you have a short neck? Do you have a long neck? Do you have a full neck? Do you have a long and lean and thin neck? Do you have this happening underneath the chin? So I could really get upset about that and not be happy about that little, extra skin. But fortunately, it doesn't really bother me all that much. But it does bother a lot of women. So if that's something that you are concerned about, then just think about, okay, what are ways that you can go ahead and not hide it, but not overemphasize it. Let's put it that way. So let's talk about a few examples. So if you have a short neck, then what do we want to do? We want to always create balance. We're always looking for how do we create balance on parts of our body. So let's take the neck, and if it's short, then to create balance, what? We want to do everything we can to elongate it. If we have a really long neck, then we want to figure out ways to shorten the look. If we have a really full neck, then we want to find ways to lean it out, and vice versa. So any of you have neck issues? If you do, put that into the comments and ask your questions. Hi, Diane. Nice to see you too. Ask questions as I go, because, I could talk on this subject all day. Probably won't remember everything that I could possibly tell you, but if you've got questions, I know I've got an answer, so just ask away. All right, so how do you create the illusion of having a longer neck? Well, one of the ways you do it is simply by what I've done here. I've worn a V-neck. This is a dress, a long maxi dress, a V-neck in the dress. I've got elongated necklace, and I've got stripes here. And I'm not doing this, by the way, because of my neck. I'm doing it for another reason. But all these things that you're seeing really do have an effect on if you have a shorter neck. These are 3 ways to elongate that neck. So let me show you a couple of pictures. Now you can also wear a collarless sweater. You know, that's fine too. It doesn't have to be a deep V like what you see, but you can create a collar, use a collarless sweater, and then use a long necklace that goes over the collarless sweater. So let's see if I were to do this. So if I had on something like this and then I dropped the necklace on top of it, you can see that still elongates the neck as well. You want to definitely avoid wearing anything thick, you know, like a thick turtleneck, because what is that going to do? First of all, it's going to build up more bulk here, but it's also going to shorten. A turtleneck is going to shorten the neckline. So if you have that long neck, then that is one way that you can balance or create balance. But if we're talking about, most women want to elongate their necks or drop it away from the extra skin that is starting to form under the neck. So when we wear a turtleneck, which a lot of women think, okay, I've got this, so I think I'm going to wear a turtleneck up here, just make sure it is not tight, because if it is tight, what happens is it pushes the skin up, and then we've got the skin that kind of hangs over. And in my opinion, that looks worse than just letting it be. Okay. Also, one thing you can do if you do have a shorter neck and you want to make it look longer, and if you have longer hair, you can simply, you know, lift up your hair, pin it in the back, and that elongates the neck too. So shorter hair around the face can definitely shorten the neck if that's a concern of yours. All right, so let's look at a couple of pictures here. So here's an example of a nice V-neck. We're going to talk about this for some other counterbalancing effects here in a moment, but that would be one to elongate the neck. This is sort of it's not a V-neck per se, neckline, but it does have a V built into it, doesn't it? And so you can see that that elongates that neckline. Here is the same sort of a look. And then this deep V is really elongates the neck in a beautiful way. Now, if that is too deep of a V, one of the things that you can do is you can also always wear a little tank or a cami or something underneath that to fill in the décolleté area. But you can see how that just really pulls that neckline down. Now here's what I want to show you of a woman that is wearing the same poncho in 3 different colorways. And you can see she's got a short neck and she has got a thick neck. So she's got kind of that double whammy. And I think you'd probably all agree with me that the black dress with the gray shawl definitely elongates her neck the most. Now, I would say that I would even rather take that pearl necklace and I'd rather drop that down onto the black dress, again, giving her a longer line. But can you see the difference of where with the orange and where with the teal blue or the aquamarine, you can see how it just cuts her right across. Now over here, let's see, where are we here? I don't know if you can see that, but she has attempted, there's a necklace there, And so that definitely helps, but the fact that the necklace actually blends into the color of the poncho, we kind of lose it, and therefore it really isn't serving the purpose that I think that it was intended. And then right here with the blue or the teal, she is wearing a shorter necklace and she's wearing a round pendant medallion on that necklace, both of which really aren't doing her any favors. But this one over here, she's taken the poncho, she's tied it as a wrap over her shoulders, and she's really elongated that neckline very, very nicely. So you can see with subtle changes in your jewelry how you can affect change to do whatever you want or you need to do. All right, so that's what we're going to say about necks. So let me see if I have any questions about necks here. I don't see any neck questions, so let's go on to the bosom. We'll come back to shoulders and arms here in a moment. So the bosom for me is my issue. It always has been, it always will be, it is, and I've just learned what I have to do. So number one, when you have a very full bosom, one of the things you can do to sort of mask that is to wear darker colors over the part that is very full. So you can see I'm wearing navy blue today. And so you can't tell really where the bust line curvature is. The next thing you can do is you can make sure that you've got some sort of extended shoulder that goes out and creates ease over the bosom. One of the things I often have to do is I often have to buy a larger size on the top in order to accommodate the bosom. And then what I have to do is I have to have under my arm actually tailored. And that's what I had to do with this piece that I have on. This is a long dress, which I know you can't see. But if I stand back, I actually had it nipped in here. I had the sleeve taken in because when you go up sizing in the bust, well, it makes everything a little bit larger. So the armhole was wider, there was more space underneath my armpit. And so one of the ways that I get things to look like they, really fit me is I take them to my alterations person. And all I had her do was to nip in the arm and then come down slightly to the bust line and take that bulk out of there. So just know that when you put something on and you say, oh gosh, that doesn't feel quite right, really take a look at it and see if your alterations person can help you deal with whatever the case may be. So the second thing I'll say is that a good bra is really important if you've got a full bust. Now, I'm just going to tell you about a new bra that I just ordered, and I have no idea how it's going to work for me, but all the reviews that I've read are excellent. And the brand is called Sassybax, Sasssybax. The company's been around apparently for about 20 years. The bra looks like this. It is a knit bra. You order it in sizes small through 2X, and they give you the, size chart to actually choose from. And this is what I love. This does not have an underwire, but they have started making an underwire, and everybody seems to be loving that. But this is one of the things that I love. Okay, so the back view, just because of the back of the bra, it really does smooth everything out. Not to mention the fact that it talks about being a really good supportive bra. So that's my tip for today. So good bra, really important. If you look in the mirror and you look at your bust line, you want to see where the nipples are hanging, so to speak. Excuse my bluntness. But you want to make sure that that area of the bust is residing halfway between the bend in your elbow and your shoulder. Okay, you don't want it south of that, because if it's south of that, it is a matronly look. So the idea is to wear a bra that's going to get the girls up in that area, halfway between the bent elbow and the shoulder. And sometimes what you may have to do is have the shoulder adjusted. And I'm very short from here to my bust. So what I have to do sometimes, oh my, here comes my alterations person again. I love her. And what I do is I have her go ahead and just take a little snip off of the strap and reposition it for me. And that keeps everything lifted and I don't feel like I'm sagging. So that is a little trick that you might want to take a peek at. Okay, Marcia, yes, minimizer bra helps too. Absolutely. I definitely have worn minimizer bras for years. The other thing that I also love is I love a kind of a one piece shaper, body shaper. And one that I don't have, it doesn't go down to the crotch area. It actually it resides right, it stays right on top of my hip line. And then I just put my panties over that and it keeps everything in place. Underwire, depending on whether you can wear underwire or not, you can get minimizers, you can get body shapers with underwire and without. So you really have to find what works for you, but foundational garments are really important. It's like the foundation of a house. You can't just build a house on the ground. You got to have a foundation onto which you are starting the construction. And that's the same with your clothes. So think about that. All right, so a good bra, a V-neck, fabric, I think is really important when you have a full bust. So, and think about this as if you have a small bust, because the reverse of what I'm saying is going to be true if you have a very small bust. But if you have a large bust, then fabric is important, and fabric is going to be better if it has some fluidity to it or it has some movement to it. So for those of us that have these curves up here, wearing things that are 100% cotton with no elastane in it is not going to work for us. It's going to be really uncomfortable. So if you've got button-up blouses in your closet and you can't figure out why you never go to them or why every time you put them on you're uncomfortable in them, it could very well simply be that the fabric isn't right for you, for what you have going on. So if you're very muscular and you're full busted, you need a lot of elastane. You need a lot of movement. And I need a lot of movement in my upper. I don't need it in my lower at all, but over the bust line and with all my curves, I really need a fabric that's going to move right along with me. All right. The other thing I would say is if you're full busted, you're not going to want to wear a lot of ruffles on top. You're going to want to keep fairly plain, fairly simple, and I'll show you a couple things. If you're small busted, then that's a great thing to think about. How can you add more volume in your blouse to make it appear that you are fuller busted? Ruffles definitely will do it. Now, it might not be part of your style personality, and that comes first before anything else, but if softness and femininity and romantic kinds of clothing are part of your style personality and you're small busted, then you just hit the jackpot. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go back to this picture again. This I believe is from Talbot's out of their latest catalog. And look at the cross patterning that you see there, as well as the way that is cut. That is great for a full bust rather than just a solid, look all the way across. So dividing up the bust, chopping it up a little bit, using surplus blouses, using this sort of a crossover blouse. This is a wrap blouse or a wrap dress. Those are all really great things for a full bust. And here would be, again, not only the V-neck, but if you look at the fabric underneath the bust, you see it's soft, it's flowy. It just accommodates the fullness of the bust rather than making the bust look like two balloons if it really comes in close to the midriff. So look at the drape on that. And then this, I would say the thing you have to be careful with here when you're full busted is those two patch pockets that are sitting right over the bust line because the eye goes right there. So this would be a no-no. I mean, the neckline is great for a full bust. The sleeves are fine for a full bust, but those two patch pockets over the bust is a bit of a problem. This one also is good for a full bust because you can see the openness of the sleeve just accommodates the roundness or the fullness that might come out on the side a bit, and it just will give you a lot of comfort. There are a lot of these kinds of looks or these kinds of blouses that are out right now. They're great for summer, and so you may want to take a look. So also, but think about the fabric. So anything that is stiff is not going to work. So a stiff linen, a stiff cotton is not going to work for a full busted woman. Here would be an example of this to me looks like a soft sort of a silk, and you'll notice the crossover. So the crossover cut actually minimizes the bust, not to mention all the vertical lines, which are good if the blouse fits well. Now, if you have a blouse that is tight in the bust and you've got the vertical lines, then that kind of is a bummer because now the lines don't really go vertical. They kind of, go off to the side and every which way, and that is a surefire disaster. Okay, here is another example of a neckline and a bust line and a sleeve that is really great for a full busted woman. So, one of the things that I've discovered over the years is that having sleeveless tops are really quite good for full busted women. So you can see just that, break in the sleeve to the arm gives a cut there and it minimizes all the fabric. So if your arms are such that you can wear sleeveless and you're full busted, this is a great way to go. You want to make sure also that you're careful about the shininess of the fabric. And right now there's a lot of shiny. There's a lot of sequins and a lot of glitter and a lot of stuff that's going on in our fabrics. So you just have to make sure that you don't put shine over the fullest part of your body because the eye will be attracted to that, number one, but also the shine actually happens to just elongate or enlarge the look of a body part. All right, one of the things I forgot to say is if you are full figured and full busted, then you have to be careful about where the sleeve hem sits in relation to the bust line or to the waistline or to wherever you happen to be fullest. So in this particular case, our eye goes, doesn't it, right to the, right here. And so if that is sitting right at her bust point, that's just going to elongate or widen, I should say, that bust line. So be very, very careful. And also you can see this neckline, being a high neck, really for her needs some sort of a necklace that drops down from the neck to again kind of split up this spaciousness there that we see right above the bust line. So lines are really important in terms of how you choose your clothing or how you use accessories on top of your clothing to do whatever you need to do, elongate or shorten. Here's an example of something that a full busted woman would never do. Two things going on. Look at all the fullness in that sleeve. Darling top. Wish I could wear that. But if you've got a full bust and then you've got all that fullness in the sleeve, what do you think's going to happen? Not to mention the neckline is too high for a full busted woman. So pay attention to those kinds of things. And when you're in your closet trying to decide, should I keep things or should I not? Or why aren't I wearing this? Or why do I love this? Kind of pay attention to the lines, the fabric, the drape of every single garment, because that's going to be a clue to you as to whether you want to do it again. And this would be also something that you would not want to do in two instances. One, if you're full busted, because what? It just takes too much fabric up to the neckline and rounds out over the bust, as well as if you've got a full neckline or a short neckline, having anything buttoned right under the chin is going to just emphasize that area. So are you trying to emphasize things? Are you trying to de-emphasize things? And that really is the name of the game. So let's see if I have any questions. It doesn't look like I do. No, I don't. Let me just check one thing, because sometimes, as I mentioned to you before, I end up getting off and then, woohoo, I've got comments that I didn't see before. But I don't see anything right at the moment. So let me just press that little button. No, nothing is coming up. So anyway, ladies, I hope this was helpful. I want you to have some fun going back into the closet and making sure that your necklines are right, your fabric is right. And if you have any questions about that, as I always say, go ahead and post a photo in the group and ask your question, and I will respond, and I'm sure others would like to respond as well. So that is it for today. We will be talking part 2 next week, and we'll move right on down the body, starting with the waistline and going from there. So take care, have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next Friday for another edition of Fashion Flair Friday. Take care now. Bye-bye.